It makes all the difference where our intellect is sitting. Sense organ sits in the objects of likes and dislikes. Mind sits, the home of the mind is desire. We don't know where the intellect sits. And when that intellect has no place to sit, it sits outside like a beggar. Do you see that even rich people has more problems than the poor because the intellect is sitting somewhere else? So that intellect knowledge lives in that intellect. So, if the intellect sits in the real self, real journey has started. But our intellect keeps changing its home. Changing home means worried, anxiety, duality, conflict. That is the entire journey of Eastern wisdom. Where the intellect sits is the main thing. In the intellect, the knowledge of the real self is awakened. I have the knowledge of my stress in the intellect. I have the knowledge if I am good and bad in the intellect. I have the knowledge that I am rich or poor with reference to the wealth in the intellect. So they keep changing. I am rich as compared to you, but I am poor as compared to others. So the intellect keeps changing. So Krishna, the great master, says that if the intellect finds its real home, and that real home is the real self, then we are free from suffering, sorrow, insecurity, anxiety, duality, conflict. Because now it is sitting in the real self. Real self is also unchanging. Intellect is also now unchanging. So we have a steady wisdom. And in that steady wisdom, the real self, now we are expressing, we are living, working, thinking and speaking from that real self. So this is the 14th verses that we are learning, and this is the last. In case it says Aho Aham Namo Mahyam Yasya me nasti kinchana. Nasti me kinchana athva yasya me sarvam yat manasa gocharam. So simple translation is, amazing, salutation to me. So what is that me? To the real self. Intellect is saying, intellect is now settled in the real self. Wow, I found the real self. So when the real self is present in the intellect, that intellect says, everything belongs to me. Who everything? Not my home, which normally we talk about, including you all, or everyone belongs to me. There is no division and duality, or nothing belongs to me. So real self is that which is present in the rays of knowledge. Pay attention. Real self is that which is present in the rays of knowledge. Become seeker, teacher, teaching in the mind. Real self is present in the rays of knowledge, like the sun rays. Not very typical as the knower, knowing, and known. We know the rays of the sun. Sometimes we say rays of the sun is nothing but the sun, and also different from the sun. So from the standpoint of sun, rays of the sun is sun. From the standpoint of rays, sun is the father of all the rays. Conclusion. What the conclusion in this 14th verse, he says the real self is self-existent, self-evident, self-luminous. We have to sit every day and find the substratum, the ultimate cause of the effect in which we are living day-to-day life. Self-existent means it is independent of cause and effect. When the intellect is sitting there, we are already there. We are independent of anything outside, everything outside. We are independent of anything and everything outside. How to understand this through our intellect? Obviously, the seeker will be able to understand. There was a vampire. You know vampire? There was a vampire who used to scold and threaten young boy. I will kill you. I just got this story. So the vampire used to meet the boy every day and disappear in the evening. Every day he says, I will kill you. After a few weeks, the boy asked, where do you go in the evening? Every evening you disappear. During the day you are always threatening. Vampire said, I go to meet God. Now see what the seeker does. Boy is a seeker. The young boy said, please ask God, what is my lifespan? Vampire returned the next day and said, young boy, your lifespan is 80 years. Boy said, thank you. Can you ask God if He can increase my lifespan by 5 years or decrease my lifespan by 5 years? Another question. Boy is a seeker. Boy is a seeker. Vampire returned the next day and said, Boy, God told me that He can neither increase nor decrease the lifespan, even by an hour. You are talking of 5 years? It is impossible. Boy heard the answer, was delighted. He started kicking and attacking the vampire. And at last the vampire escaped. My lifespan cannot be increased, cannot be decreased, even by an hour. Vampire has been threatening me every day. This vampire is our mind. Understand this clearly. From today, the vampire is our mind, seeking security and freedom from the sorrow and suffering. What will happen to me? Nothing has happened, nothing will happen to you. It is the vampire which is causing you the trouble. Vampire is the mind, and the intellect in the boy is God. What will happen? Mind is saying, intellect stops thinking. The mind then increases. What will happen? What will happen? It goes to the negative thoughts and behavior. No, I'm in anxiety. What will happen? Nothing is going to happen. Are you good? The vampire in our mind seeking security and suffering. The vampire is our mind that causes the suffering, that wants to bring an end to the suffering. The mind created the wrong knowledge of the birth, growth, old age, death, and then starts searching happiness and security in them. I have to live in insecurity. I have to live in anxiety. I have to live in reaction. I start misusing the intellect in a wrong direction. Vampire. That vampire is the mind. The boy is a common man. We all are. We live with the likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, craving and wrong notions, not knowing what my real nature is. After repeated threats from the vampire, the mind, which has a clinging likes and dislikes, somehow the intellect shines by learning Eastern wisdom. Does the science says that you have a real self which is of the nature of happiness, permanent happiness, love, wisdom and the truth? You see, science never says that. Science does not know who am I. So when the intellect shines with the knowledge that can be validated by the practice of meditation, that there is a real self, there is a pure consciousness which is self-existent. So the mind, the vampire that was causing, threatening, living in that state of suffering, learns these principles and then shines with the rays of the knowledge. What needs to be done? Knowledge. How knowledge is consciousness, consciousness is knowledge. Awareness. knowledge and experience. When we separate the vampire mind through awareness and knowledge. Now see that. I'm in stress. Who is experiencing the intellect? The mind becomes aware. I experience stress. It means experiencer is different from the experience. Is it not a natural way to understand? So that the moment that separation takes place in the mind or in the intellect, you are free from it. Now see that what he says. He says, Aho aham namo mahyam, salutation to me. To whom? Who is that me? Me is the real self. Who was this me before? It was vampire. Where it is living with me, within me. So what happened? The vampire mind overshadowed the real self. That is how the boy realized that if my lifespan cannot be increased or decreased, what the heck, vampire, you are threatening me. So what is the meaning? Whatever the mind says, drop it. No. And this mind has to change completely. This mind has to change completely. How this vampire mind has been created by us, we are responsible for it. You have lot of pet dog. They don't do it, but normally the stray dog who are impulsive, they follow their own mind, they do it. They find the bone, they start chewing it, blood starts coming from the gum, their own gum, and they get the pleasure. Compare the same vampire mind. This is what happens when we are seeking pleasure from any object, anything in the world. Anything in the world. So it means I am seeking pleasure from a person, the intellect sits there. And that overshadows the real self. The mind takes over, it becomes the vampire mind. Are you getting it? Let us understand in a different way the sense organs. The home of the sense organ is likes and dislikes. The moment you are out, some of you may like my beard, others may not like. It's natural. That is how the sense organ works. You are beautiful. Some people have a different opinion about beauty. So likes and dislikes continues. The mind, home of the mind is desire. That projects happiness outside. We don't know the home of intellect. So when we search the home of the intellect, which is real self, that is unchanging. So the knowledge in the intellect also remains unchanged. It lives with the real self. What happens? Awakening takes place. You are into that state of the peace and happiness. Now the sense organ says, this clay pot is beautiful, I like it, but the intellect is already settled in the clay. There is no clay pot. Clay pot is always in appearance. Do you see that? I am comparing by different examples. There is no clay pot. It is always in appearance. There is no bodies. They are all in appearance, but there is one real self. Problem is the mind. Solution is the mind. Now see what happens when I live into that state. The intellect is constantly aware of the real self, and then it perceives the world outside. It is the consciousness in the intellect that is expressing itself, by which we know, for a matter of convenience, that you are this person, you are that person, you are male, you are female, you are good, etc., etc. So if the consciousness is not there, think of it. This is the beautiful. If I am not there, I am means consciousness is not there, the world also is not there. That I am is the real self. That I am is pure awareness, pure consciousness. So what the seeker is saying in this verse, Namo Mahyam, I salute to that real self. It is amazing. I have been guided and dictated by this vampire mind with the wrong notion all the time. Why wrong notion? Because the mind sits with the desire that is constantly projecting happiness, and it overshadows the real self. But when that vampire is gone, what happens? I live into that pure awareness all the time. All the time. In that state, I experience that permanent peace and happiness is there. Another part of this, then he says, it's a beautiful to know that what he says, that my experience, that I am amazing, I am saluting to myself. Then the second line, that is very important. Who either does not possess anything or possess everything that could be expressed by the mind and the thought. From the standpoint of the sun, all the rays are nothing but me. Sun can say that. And from the standpoint of rays, nothing belongs to me. For when nothing belongs to me, so I need not to crave for seeking pleasure from outside. So should I go to Himalayas, become a monk? If my honey is not responsible for my peace and happiness, no, it is the process of evolution. I have found the peace. Let me express peace and happiness wherever I go, with all my thought, speech, and action. Because otherwise I cannot know whether there is a real self or not. Did you understand that point? I should have a contrast. Mind must perceive the duality to express that peace and happiness. So now we do everything in the world where common sense should apply. Do everything does not mean that other thoughts that are coming to your mind. So we should be. So now we are living, thinking, and speaking with reference to the real self. And the peace is ready to express itself. Happiness is ready to express itself. The joy is ready to express itself. in all conditions, in all situations, 24/7, at every moment in your life, in all your relations. In the beginning, it is a check whether it works or not. And gradually you understand it is working. It is the real self. It is the self-existent entity. This is what the message is. Aho aham namo mahyam yasya me nasti kinchana athva yasya me sarvam yat vangam manaso gocharam. Can we say goodbye to that vampire mind? Let us see. Let us start our journey. Close your eyes and close your eyes. On the journey, every Saturday we are clear that we are not doing anything. So the mind will ask, what the heck, then you ask me to close your eyes. That is why I ask you to close your eyes, so that you should not do anything. Why? If you open your eyes, the sight is very strong. It picks up the objects and the people, and the things will create likes and dislikes. So I am aware. Awareness. So that is what I say. Awareness of the body with the knowledge that I am not the body. Now, two things together. Awareness of the body and knowing I am not the body. It gives a blow to the vampire mind, because vampire mind depends heavily on the body for seeking pleasure. We are not doing anything. We are just aware. Look, feel, awareness, knowledge, experience. I am using these words during the entire journey. So when I say look at the neck joint is an object to be seen and the known, what is known by the mind is not me. And the moment you have that knowledge, you have an experience of sensation, comfortable and steadiness. But that experience is not me. I am always separate from the experience. So now this mind looks within into the space or blankness or awareness. No, I have lot of thought. Then what? I am asking you to simply be aware. Look, feel, know. Oh, you have an experience, the thoughts are coming, but you are an experiencer. Thoughts are coming, good. Not coming, good. Staying, good. Not staying, good. You should maintain awareness, not to allow the mind to be carried away by the past impressions. What are the past impressions? This thought is good, that thought is bad. See that? We need that awareness. Thought is neither good or bad. It is how we give interpretation. That is how our masters and also the science explains: be objective, remain unbiased. If you don't remain unbiased, the vampire mind will take over you. That is the problem. So again, looking at the shoulder joints, looking at, you see, not doing anything. Then experience of sensation, comfort and steadiness. Oh yes, I am aware. They are my experiences at this moment. I should not be carried away by any experience at all. Where is the knower? And the mind keeps looking inside. Look at the head and the neck. Head and the neck. Sensation is there. Relaxation is there. Stillness is there. I did nothing. Means we did nothing. We are simply aware. Pay attention. Simply aware. We are looking. Being aware and looking is nothing but the knowledge and experience. Awareness, knowledge and experience, they are fundamentally synonyms. Right arm. I simply said right arm. Look. Feel. Experience sensation, relaxation, stillness. Then the mind keeps looking deep inside into the space. That is it. What happens? That consciousness, that real self, which is still unknown, has already expressing itself as sensation, relaxation, and stillness. We should appreciate that point. Why? We said goodbye to the vampire mind. You can't do anything to me. You feel the vampire mind is doing good, so it is seeking pleasure outside, building imagination and fantasies. It is the same mind. Same mind says you are in stress, you cannot get out of the stress and suffering. That is still the vampire mind. What did I say? Remain objective. Left arm. Can I say directly remain objective? That includes unbiased awareness, unbiased knowledge of the left arm. Remain unbiased when you experience sensation, relaxation, and stillness. And then what happens? The mind returns within. The moment I become subjective, oh, left arm is having more intense relaxation. No, I am having discomfort. My mind was already having lot of. You become subjective. Then what happens? It is the vampire mind is already started working. I body, I right arm, I left arm, I my right eye, I thought. They all are being subjective. Another way to simply understand. Look at the entire body, all the joints of the body. Are you objective? Yes. What will happen if you are objective? The intellect shines with the knowledge that when I am objective, the body is not me. Mind says body has sensation, comfort, and still objective. Mind has pain, still objective. Discomfort, still objective, separate, different. What we say in Eastern wisdom, I am not the body. That is what is. When I am objective to the body, the breath, the mind, the thoughts, the feeling, and the sensation, what is left? Real self. Looking at the entire body and all the joints, you are objective. Then sensation, relaxation and stillness, objective. Mind looking inside and still objective. And now inside, definitely it's natural that the mind has influx of thoughts. Mind is one, essentially, but we have variety of thoughts based on the past impressions. Okay, thought comes, goes. Why we say let the thought come and go? We are objective, unbiased. Another way to understand. Understanding is knowledge. Knowledge is awareness. Become aware of the space between the two thoughts. So what happens? What we understood, allow the intellect to sit in where it can reveal the real self. So we say one thought is coming, no issue. How do you recognize there are two thoughts? Because there is a gap, there is an interval, there is a space between the two thoughts. Thought is here, came, gone, space, another thought, comes, goes, space. You will discover one space, many thoughts. Your objective, you do not give any interpretation to any thought. You give interpretation, you become subjective. That is how you say, oh, I am in stress, I have problem. You are aware of the space that was before the thought, during the thought, after the thought. Just become aware what I say. Before thought enters, what was space? During, the space was hidden behind. After, space. It becomes a play, fun. The vampire mind is not there. It is highly subjective. What was there inside before any thought? Space. That knowledge, that awareness should be there. When the thought enters, it overshadows that space, but the space was already there. Without the space, I cannot have a thought. Do you see that? And then thought stays, space is still there. Blueness is there in the sky, but the sky is not blue. I know it. How do I know? I have knowledge. I am aware. And then the thought disappeared. Clouds disappeared. I see the sun. But even when the cloud was there, I know the sun is there behind the clouds. It is the boy in you is working only with the knowledge. You see, I use many similes to make you aware only. I'm not asking you to do anything. There is an awareness, space is there. Thought comes, overshadows the space. So I'm also not only aware of the thought being objective, but also the space behind the thought. I see the space doesn't move. Thought is coming and going. It has gone, the space appeared. The vampire mind, coincide thought, lures us. We become highly subjective. And then we say, look at it, how much suffering I have. We allow the intellect to settle in that space. It has to find something to settle on. Boy settled with a firmness that he cannot die. So when you are settled there, then you discover birth, growth, old age, death, anxiety, stress, pleasure, all belongs to the vampire mind. It has nothing to do with me. Look at the entire body, awareness of the body. Can I say it is the blueness of the sky, but inside and behind the body, I discover I am not the body. How I discover? I simply become aware. So, when the vampire mind says, I am the body, that thought overshadows the real self. Look at the breath. When I am not the body, does the mind still say the breath is going in and out? There is no in and out when I am not the body. I simply feel the sensation. You see, wrong concepts, one after the other, wrong notions, one after the other, created by the mind. And the same wrong notion threatens us. You are looking at the breath, your awareness of the feeling, the sensation of the air. And the space behind. awareness of any movement, any change, any thought, any feeling, any sensation, and the intellect is settled in the space behind. We know it 100%. Sky is clouded. Oh, but still there is a sun. How do we know it? Do we need to do any practice? That sun, which is the real self, shines behind the body, the breath, the thoughts, the feeling. At the same time, you are fully aware. You are in the state of doing nothing. You are in the state of knowing. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your awareness on the right hand, your awareness on the left hand. Lift, raise both your palms, place it on your closed eyes. Open the eyes inside. Bring the hands down. How are you, Jerry and David?
Yeah, it was a little different experience for me in that I just immediately went into a deep, I would call it meditative state. I was aware of your voice, but I couldn't tell you the exact words you said. And my body temperature was very high through the whole thing. And then all of a sudden the gong went off. So it went by very quick.
Very, beautiful. Yeah, a sense of timelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good. A keen awareness through that meditation of the body, but not the body, and then the mind, and then something else. And then an awareness of the space with light going through the space, but mostly just the space.
Beautiful. Do you realize one thing that the mind constantly reacts? I have a lot of problems. No problem, no worries, nothing else. So when we experience that state, it means that state exists within. That is beautiful. How are you, Christina? Christina is still not listening. How are you, Brandy?
I had a really strong physical response to that. I had to come out a couple times.
Huh.
I got really, really warm, and I felt like I was going to be sick, but I just kept coming back.
Vampire mind.
Yeah, it was strong today.
No, it's good.
It came back around,
So sometimes this mind takes over us, and that says, do this, do that. No, yes, no, yes. But it's a good experience. How are you, Kate?
Resting in awareness.
Very good. Good. How are you, Christina?
That was very subtle compared to my experience the other day of upbringing of emotions. So this was very, very helpful for me to slow down my mind, and you guiding us through letting that space be a thought, and then the space that really was very helpful for me.
Good.
And that was beautiful. I'm going to remember that throughout the days of
Yes.
my mind.
At every moment, whatever mind expresses and what is behind. How are you, Sam?
I'm really good. Definitely more deep and quiet for me immediately. Similar to David, I was, tracking your voice, but,
Totally absorbed inside, maintaining total awareness.
Yeah, and I would say, at those times when I'm in such a deeper state, I've had times where I find I lose track of where my physical head is at, a little bit of, moving my head around, exploring the space, bobbing a little bit, but allowing it to happen, not judging, and deep and quiet. So.
Good, very good. How are you, Vaibhav?
So I'm very, very peaceful. It's like that when I'm inside that state of awareness, I have so much control on the mind that I know that anything is coming, I don't have to go there. I have to be inside. And then it was very peaceful.
That's a good point. Yes, I am aware that I have not to go there. It means that we do not allow the mind to settle there. No. I am here. Where I am here. So that leaves you into the state of infinite consciousness. How are you, Anne?
Yes, I feel grounded. Of course, I always have thoughts coming in, not really disturbing thoughts, but I'm able to let them go.
You see that? You see, this is again a good experience. So we should realize that these thoughts cannot harm us. In some, vampire mind cannot harm us. It says, I will die if I do this. You see? Then go on thinking, and the vampire mind says, now you are under my control. So once we are aware of that fact, the mind transcends itself. How are you, Terry?
Hi.
Hi.
I had so many thoughts. They kept coming, and I couldn't find the space in between the thoughts because they kept coming. So I just I didn't follow them, but they wouldn't stop.
They wouldn't stop.
I got kind of towards the end, I started moving a lot like this, and I got kind of frustrated and just said, I'm not going to fight it. Sometimes I stay there and try to fight it. I'm not going to fight it. I just got up. But I had a lot of questions because I was hearing everything that you were saying.
Okay.
Those are all thoughts.
You see, you had lot of thoughts. That is what you said?
Yeah.
And then you made a very contradictory statement, opposing that there was no gap in between the thoughts. How can you recognize there are many thoughts if there is no gap between?
Well, I knew there was one, but I couldn't find it. Like as soon as I was there, another one was there.
This is the vampire mind.
Yeah, it was all over me.
Do you see? I know Jerry and David are sitting, but still I cannot find the gap between. So it is. Yeah. So what will happen? We will talk about it possibly in the next session. What is that? I got it. How are you, John?
Good, thank you. That was very stable, and I was able to. The body was stable. And
Yeah. I could see that. I had a private seeker in a private session, Paul, who used to complain that body is not stable, and after a few weeks and months he says, now I want to sit and practice. Initially he started doing while lying down, and then after a year he could sit cross-legged without doing any posture. So if the vampire mind goes away, you feel a tremendous changes in the body itself. How are you, Ashok?
Good. Nothing to mention at the moment. That's good.
Yeah, you find there is something good in Mondays and Thursdays session. This is a crazy meditation practice, That was good. So continue to stay with Mondays and Thursdays. So understand this mind constantly. We have covered everyone. I can't see the face. So we have this: without the mind, I cannot work. First thing to understand, without mind, I cannot work in the world. But when I work with the mind with the wrong notion that is present in the mind as a memory or instinctive or impulsive thoughts plus action, I cannot find real self. And we did nothing. And you said that I was able to throw the thoughts away. It simply demands an awareness, nothing else. Or in a better expression, the intellect should be settled inside in the real self. When it is settled, we are there. Any question? That is all for today. We'll meet on Monday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish.
Either live with the vampire mind or live with yourself. Choice is yours.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
हाँ सुनीता कैसे हो? अरे तुम दिखाई नहीं दे रहे थे.
गड़बड़ हो गया था इसमें.
हाँ गड़बड़. तुम्हारा मन नहीं गड़बड़ होना चाहिए बस. मन चंगा तो कटौती में गंगा. मन ठीक रहना चाहिए.
जी सर.
और अशोक भाई करते रहो. इंजीनियर हो तो इसको भी समझना है. ये अष्टावक्र गीता है. जितनी समझ मन कई बार भाग जाता है. नहीं समझेंगे, आंख बंद करके बैठे रहते. नहीं, समझना है. तो कुछ नहीं चाहिए, समझ चाहिए. गुरुदेव ने कई सालों तक पढ़ाया अष्टावक्र गीता. याद है तुम गए थे शायद 85-86 में गंगोत्री. साथ में गए थे तुम भी. जब वो देवी दत्त के यहाँ गए थे हम. अरे वो माइक तो खोल लो. भोले राम
आपके साथ ही गए थे उस समय. सब देव के साथ में ना.
हाँ तो उस समय वो 4-4, 5-5 घंटे अष्टावक्र गीता पढ़ा.
94 की बात है.
हाँ 94 की बात.
गंगोत्री में मिले थे.
हाँ तो उन्होंने कई बार पढ़ाया. हम सबको कोरोना है, तुम ऐसे ही मास्क लगा के रखना शोभा.
नहीं कुछ सिम्टम्स लग रहे हैं थोड़ा से.
नहीं बिल्कुल सही किया तुमने. हाँ बिल्कुल लगा के रखो. चलो फिर मिलते हैं.